Yes, I see morally that it's important that the addition that they give to these people's lives is recognised financially, and there's also a legal aspect to this as well.
I don't agree with this because I think this should all be ironed out before. What happened with me, there's 5 of us, 3 sisters and 2 brothers. And we discussed this before. My sister naturally said, I can look after her.
How many years or how long did she look after you?
It was about 1.5 years. And we never expected her to go after the house or anything. It was just, thanks, Vicky, that's really great that you can look after Mum and we'll help you to pay your mortgage.
It's not a case of going after the house, though, is it, necessarily?
Well,
it's the fact that you've given up your entire life, you've stayed at home, you've given up the opportunity of building your career, amassing any savings or buying your own property that by 30, 40, 50 years later is worth a sum of money.
But it should have all been discussed. The main thing is when the will is happening.
It possibly was 40 years ago.
You hinted on it there, didn't you? You helped her pay her mortgage. The sister did the primary caring.
My 2 brothers did.
So the premise being that was a recognition of the fact that your sister was looking after your mum, which enabled you your free time.
Families are different, aren't they? And sometimes, you know, somebody can take the burden. They might want to for love, but then find themselves in a financial mess because of it, or worse off than their siblings.
Absolutely.
So at that point, do you think it's fair?
I think there should be flexibility, but the main thing is the will is put in place by the mother, and those wishes should be adhered to. You know, the mum wanted the boys all to have equal.
The trouble was, the will in this case, I think, was drawn up in 1971.
Exactly.
So years before,
the 3 brothers were in entirely different situations as they would have been in 1971. So 47 years later, I think I can't comment on the present case. Getting since I'm not instructed in that particular matter. But if the will had been reviewed, she may have changed her mind. She may have thought, well, actually, Tim, sorry to mention his name, should be recognised for the fact that he spent his entire life living with me and looking after me.
Well, my view
is it should have been ongoing.
He's never left the house, apparently, from what I read.
The brothers should have discussed this all before the death, because it kind of looks like she's died and then he's going after everything, and it seems really mercenary.
That's not right. No, with respect, that's not right. That's not how it's reported. He wants to redress the imbalance. The courts are there to make sure that if reasonable financial provision is not made, they can step in, use their discretion and make sure that there is some fairness and some justice. And this is one of those situations. So he's not asking for everything, he's just asking for a greater share.
A greater share. And do you know what, Emma, it seems so sad about it, is that a parent has died.
Exactly.
And now
they're focusing on all of that.
Are at war over who should get what.
It just goes back to it's much better to talk beforehand.
Sorry.
It's so much better to talk. Those brothers should have had all of this sorted out way before. Yeah, but
it's the same discussion.
Like they're all climbing over
you say
her
that, but it's the
grave,
same discussion now as what would have taken place.
But why didn't I don't understand why it didn't happen before. It should all be about love and respect.
Nobody likes to talk about death, do they? That's the problem, isn't it?
I think we
so the will was made in 1971, and almost 50 years later.
Was there a discussion in your case about what your sister might give up financially and what she would be entitled to? I mean, how difficult is that conversation?
Well, we're very upfront about everything in our family. Everyone's going to die one day. My sister said, I can look after Mum. My brother said, we've got more money than you, so we'll help you pay your mortgage. There was never any discussion about her having a big
in your
chunk
situation.
of the house or anything.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, let's face it, there wasn't very much money to go around anyway, so it's not the same as this case. But it's just it was all ironed out way before.
And you say, you know, I mean, in this case, it could be the case that your caring responsibilities actually stretch out beyond what you had intended. Actually, that you might have intended to look after her for 6 months.
There's a moral obligation on both parties' side. On Mum's side, because son has given up his entire life. So there is a moral obligation there. Son can't just simply move out of the house. There's nobody else left to look after Mum,
But in this case, it feels a bit like the guy's saying, I haven't had a career and my brother's
That's exactly
really
what he's saying.
Yes.
And he's right.
He's made a financial sacrifice.
Is that
he was a qualified barrister. He's chosen not to work.
Is that their fault?
I
mean, she had 2 carers. It's my understanding she had 2 carers. So
towards the latter part of her life.
Did she really need to have a third?
Yes, that's right.
I don't know.
Well, It is an ongoing case, and it's being heard at the moment. Do you know what? Viewers are completely split over this. I think there is an argument, as Han says, the one who stayed home to care for his mother deserves more. Yes. Debbie, I definitely think if there's a family member or another person that's given their time to care for someone else in a time of need, they should be entitled to more money. Laura, being a carer can be a financial burden. David, though, what's in the will needs to be respected. Bernini, if it's not in the will, then no. Empowered on Twitter, no, you can't put a price on love.
Sort it all out before.
It's very hard, though, if you're a carer.
The will is 47 years out of date.
If you're the person doing the caring, to say to your mum, listen, mum, I'm suffering financially. Could you give me more in the will? That's a hard conversation to have.
It makes it then
look like he could have picked up the phone to his brothers and said, look, this is going on much, it's taking up a large chunk of my life, we need to talk about.
Well, possibly that's why the two carers were moved in, the professional carers, who were paid £45,000 per year.
But it feels like she's died and then all of a sudden I want the house.
Here we go, Helen C on Twitter has got the answer. This subject is a minefield and there'll never be an acceptable answer. So
should we settle on that?
I think that's right. I think that's right. Every case should be judged on its particular facts.